to begin with, we can look at Heraclitus, the famous Greek philosopher. And everyone's probably heard this quote, different variations, but one of the quotes that you probably heard of is the idea is that nothing endures but change. So what he was really getting at in his philosophy and his look at society was the idea that change is happening constantly, and change is something we have to prepare for. In some cases, change is something we have to overcome, as you'll see in a second. Sometimes our associations with change are positive, like we talked about with mobile media, with iPads and our phones. In some cases, they're negative, and in some cases, they're maybe in between. So I want to address today some of these ideas in the context of how we all personally adapt to social change, as individuals, as companies, as brands, as product lines, whatever. And I think it's really important to set at the get-go the idea that change is always happening, and it's something we have to address, as Heraclitus talked about. Second thing I wanted to say about this is that really, I don't necessarily claim to be an expert in terms of change, and I would argue that really change is something that you can prepare for, but as far as being an expert in change and saying you can pinpoint when things are going to happen, it's not necessarily the case. I mean, political scientists that didn't predict the Arab Spring, the social revolution that happened in the Middle East over the last couple years. And so the thing we can really do, I think, is to have conversations, develop models, develop methods of understanding to try to focus on change. But maybe we should avoid that sort of expert discourse where there are experts that tell us how to prepare for change. So a conversation is really where we're going to go with this, and the last exercise we'll work on today will be this idea of asking ourselves 10 questions about adapting to change. So first off, we'll talk about some associations of change. We'll then go into a definition, a simple definition of social change. We'll talk about some models that we can use to understand change, a few case studies, many of which focus on mobile media and technology. And then lastly, as I just mentioned, we'll talk about these 10 questions and how to address social change in our own lives.